we just read a long letter to Morarji Desai asking for 100 permanent resident visas in India. The construction was proceeding well with ECC, but Prabhupada felt that he needed someone strong to deal with them regarding the schedule of payments. He discussed the issue with Tamal Krishna and me and concluded that none of our devotees could do it, semicolon. We needed an intelligent, reliable, expert, and experienced businessman friend. We thought of Brij Ratan Mohata, who over the years had proven himself in all these ways and more would be ideal. When Mr. Mohata came to Juhu to meet Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna asked Prabhupada if we should explain the situation, but Prabhupada said that we were not capable of doing even that. He would explain it to Mr. Mohata himself. Mr. Mohata understood the situation, but he told Prabhupada that if matters were taken out of Surabhi's hands, Surabhi might feel bad. Prabhupada agreed and decided that Surabhi will remain in charge, but will be required to submit all ECC's bills to Mr. Mohata for approval before any would be paid. Prabhupada himself was managing the funds for the construction. Break. Mr. Sethi, who was so staunch and had so much faith in Prabhupada that his devotion for him reminded me of Hanuman's for Lord Ram. Loved to chant the holy names, and for years before he met Prabhupada, he had been associated with a group called Radha Madhava Prem Shuddha Sankirtan Mandala. Their guru was based in Vrindavan, and they chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In Bombay, they were all householders and very devoted. Every Sunday, they would have a 12-hour Akhanda Harinam Sankirtan, unbroken, continuous Hare Krishna Kirtan from 6 in the morning until to 6 in the evening, followed by 2 hours of songs from Braja. Mr. Sethi had the idea that instead of having the kirtan in one of the devotees' homes, the group could have it at Hare Krishna land, along with our temple devotees. So we arranged it in front of the deities in the small temple beside the complex, which was nearing completion. Prabhupada was staying just above in his new quarters, despite the construction not being completely finished and the lift not working. Ill as he was, he would recline or lie down and relish the kirtan, which you could hear coming from below. Many of the temple devotees left in the heat of the afternoon, but the mandala people continued chanting. When Mr. Sethi went up to see Prabhupada and told him that there were no devotees in the temple, Prabhupada, displeased, called for me and told me, our devotees cannot do like they, the mandala group, do. Our devotees can only eat and sleep. Upendra, who had joined Prabhupada's team of personal servants, reported that Prabhupada continually praised the group and repeatedly condemned us or lamented, why our men cannot do the same thing? They are just eating and sleeping. The mandala devotees wanted to see Prabhupada to have his audience, but they were too many to come up. And anyway, they had to be in the kirtan. and Prabhupada was too ill to walk down the stairs or meet them all. At one stage, they were so eager that they came out of the temple and just stood beneath Prabhupada's balcony doing kirtan, chanting for him. Eventually, Tamal Krishna and Mr. Seti helped Prabhupada walk to the balcony, and when he glanced down and smiled upon the mandala devotees, they welled up with ecstasy and love for him. He stayed for a little while and then went back in, and the group continued their kirtan in the temple. One highlight came at the end when a female devotee sang Jai Radha, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jaya Krishna. Later, Mr. Seti told us that when Prabhupada was listening to that song, tears of ecstatic love were streaming down his cheeks. That kirtan was wonderful, Prabhupada told me the next day. We should invite the whole group to stay at Hare Krishna land. Tell them we will maintain them. They won't have to work. All they have to do is continuous kirtan. The group comprised 50 families, and he said he would build them accommodation and provide all their necessities. He wanted only one thing from them. They should chant Hare Krishna day and night. I wasn't sure how to respond, but it seemed that Prabhupada knew that this might take some time. Then he said, at least our devotees, they should do the 12-hour kirtan every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I hesitated. Prabhupada had always emphasized that we had to serve and spread the mission. And in Juhu, we were especially busy finishing the temple and getting it ready to open. I didn't see how all the devotees could spend 12 hours a day chanting in the temple. Srila Prabhupada, I said, we have so much service to do. How will we be able to do it all? All right, he said, then one day a week on Sunday. I immediately agreed, relieved. Only one day, 12 hours. Tamal Krishna later commented to me that Prabhupada had done some transcendental bargaining. If he had begun 12 hours every Sunday, I might have said, oh, that's too much. Maybe 4 hours. Oh, Prabhupada. But because he had begun with 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, when he had arrived at 12 hours one day a week, I had been relieved. Oh, yes, we can do that. So every Sunday, we did 12 hours of continuous kirtan, and it was just as Prabhupada had said when I was in Boston, that by Sankirtan all problems would be solved, materially and spiritually. Prabhupada had complete faith in the holy name. He knew that the holy name was Krishna himself, that if we chanted the holy name, we would be in Krishna's association, and that he would preserve what we had and provide what we lacked. As the temple president, I had to deal with many problems. We had to construct the complex, deal with the civic authorities, organize the temple programs, deal with the devotees, and just survive in India with all the disease and other hardships. Devotees would come to me, and on Monday, Tuesday, and sometimes Wednesday, I would deal with the problems. But by Thursday, we were getting close to the 12-hour Harinam, and I knew it happened every time without fail that all the problems would be solved. Either the problem would solve itself, or the devotees would realize that it wasn't really a problem after all, or we would get some insight or inspiration how to deal with it. So beginning Thursday, I would say, just give me a few days to think about it. You learned from Prabhupada. But I knew that by the time the Sunday kirtan was over, the problem would be solved. On May 8, the day after Prabhupada left Bombay, I was pleased to write him. Today we instituted the Sunday continuous kirtan as you instructed before you left, and all the devotees are participating are experiencing transcendental ecstasy. In addition, the kirtan is attracting many nice people to attend the program. At noon, we served prasadam to all the guests and gave them a tour of the new building. We hope to improve the program week by week. Thank you for organizing the all-day Sunday Kirtan program, he replied. This should be developed very nicely, stressing Kirtan and Prasadam. Bombay was hot and humid, and Prabhupada was looking to regain his health in a better climate. The day after the continuous Kirtan, Nrsimha Chaturdasi, May 2, Prabhupada decided on Srinagar in Kashmir and asked Tamal Krishna to set a date and make all arrangements. That afternoon, however, Sriman Narayan, the former governor of Gujarat, who had so much appreciated and facilitated Prabhupada during the Gita conference in Wardha, came to meet him. Seeing how ill Prabhupada was, Sriman Narayan suggested that his health would be improved by going to Rishikesh on the banks of the Ganges at the foothills of the Himalayas. Jai Dayal Dalmia had a bungalow there, he said, and a great deal of influence in the area. He would arrange everything. As always, Prabhupada took the opportunity to stress the value of Krishna consciousness. Indians are intelligent, he said, but they have sacrificed everything to imitate the Westerners. Our knowledge, we have locked it, and we are trying to imitate. Yes, true, Sriman Narayan accepted. Imitation is not good at all. We must keep our originality and ancient culture. Prabhupada said that his books were being received, quote, with great praise. And I added that they had been translated into 23 different languages, which impressed Sriman Narayan. Within 10 years, I've already written 84 books, Prabhupada said, and the daily proceeds from the sales of my books is 5 to 6 lakhs. All universities, libraries, professors, they are taking. He mentioned his devotees' difficulties with visas for India, there we go again, and their need for permanent residence, and Sriman Narayan promised to speak to Morarji Desai and also to introduce us to Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the new Minister of External Affairs. A feast had been prepared for Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day, and at Prabhupada's insistence, Sriman Narayan and his family accepted and relished the prasad. Prabhupada had been suffering from poor appetite and ate later after the guests had left. He explained that when you gave someone prasad, he would be with you through thick and thin, in good times and bad, and said that we should always remember that. Immediately contact Jai Dayal Dalmia, he told Tamal Krishna. He has got a nice house. We will go to Rishikesh immediately. Prabhupada had never been there and had always wanted to stay by the banks of the Ganges. Rishikesh is known to be very good, Tamal Krishna said. Ganga is there. We can go immediately. That is decided. Rishikesh is appealing to drink Ganges water and take bath in the Ganges. I immediately feel attracted to going there because it's a holy city, Tamal Krishna said. These other places were not so. This Rishikesh is a holy city. It is nearer. Tomorrow I'm going into Bombay City anyway. I'll make arrangements. 4 days later, Tamal Krishna was preparing Prabhupada's red bag, which Prabhupada always kept with him, for the journey to Rishikesh. Prabhupada told him to bring the photograph of Radha Rasa Bihari. Who can fully understand the relationship of the spiritual master with Krishna. Tamal Krishna wrote that day in his diary. Prabhupada had asked Krishna to sit down on this land and had promised him that he would manage everything. Still, the temple was not yet completed, and Radharasa Bihari were being kept waiting to be installed in their beautiful temple. The delay in their installation was the reason Prabhupada's demands regarding the construction were so great that sometimes they seemed almost unbearable. By material standards, they might have been, but Prabhupada was building this temple for Krishna. He loved Krishna, and Krishna was being made to wait. When Srila Prabhupada is demanding that Krishna not be made to wait any longer, he is speaking out of love. Break. We were all hopeful that in the peaceful, spiritual atmosphere and cool temperatures of Rishikesh and with water from the Ganges, Prabhupada would recover his health. The day after he left, I wrote him, "We hope that your divine grace is enjoying your staying in Rishikesh, and we hope that this letter will find you in improved health with increased appetite." Mr. Mohanta came to Juhu yesterday to discuss our problems with ECC and the other contractors, I reported. After hearing the different arguments regarding paying and not paying ECC, Mr. Mahata suggested that we pay them 2 or 3 lakhs now. He said that if we refused to pay anything, we would have to expect a delay in the work. So he suggested we make a small payment with a note to ECC that we are still very dissatisfied with the speed of the work and that they should complete and leave so we can settle the final bill. After reading him the contract, it was apparent that all of the terms are in ECC's favor. But at the same time, he said, his man would check the bills in the next few days. Amongst the conditioned souls, Mr. Mohata is an expert businessman. But you are a pure devotee, and you have advised that we pay nothing. We are always ready to stand by your decision, but if you feel that we should take Mr. Mohata's advice, then we request you to send us the letter to present to Bank of America instructing them to pay ECC rupees 2 lakhs against their bill numbers 11 and 12 for January and February. We will present this letter to Bank of America only after receipt of the next inward remittance from abroad. Prabhupada agreed to the proposal with provisions. Quote, as Mr. Mohata has recommended, I have enclosed a letter to the Bank of America advising them to make payment to ECC for the amount of 2 lakhs, he replied. This letter, as well as the other letter advising a transfer of rupees 6.5 lakhs to the State Bank of Hyderabad account, should only be presented to Bank of America after they advise you that they have received Guru Kripa Swami's $100,000 and not before. But Mr. Mohata should be shown all the bills so that he can check them. I am not at all in favor of paying them any more money until the final bill is presented. In regard to his health, Prabhupada wrote that yes, it was improving, but only, quote, a very little. The house that we have been given is the best in Rishikesh, he assured us. It is very nice, and the climate is much better than Bombay's. Many persons are coming in the afternoons for darshan. Within a week, however, Prabhupada felt like he was soon going to leave his body. At 1:30 a.m. on May 16th, he called for Tamal Krishna and said, as I was telling you, the symptoms are not good. I want to leave immediately for Vrindavan. If I'm going to die, let it be in Vrindavan. There weren't any train reservations available, so Prabhupada went by car with Tamal Krishna and Upendra, with Damodar Pandit driving. When they stopped overnight at the Delhi temple, devotees offered Prabhupada Mahaprasad, but after just a taste, he said, "Eating is finished. I prayed to Krishna to be freed from eating and sleeping, and it is happening. I've already given up mating and defending. Now all these material activities are finished." On the way out of Delhi, Tamal Krishna noted that Prabhupada seemed content. "You look very happy to be going to Vrindavan," he said. "Yes," Prabhupada confirmed. "Vrindavan is my home, and Bombay is my office." Break. When he got to Vrindavan, Prabhupada announced that he had come to leave his body. "If death takes place, let it be here," he repeated in his arrival address. There is nothing to be said new. Whenever I have to speak, I have spoken in my books. Now you try to understand it and continue your endeavor. Whether I'm present or not present doesn't matter. As Krishna is living eternally, similarly the living being also lives eternally. But kirtir yasya sajivati, one who has done service to the Lord lives forever. So you have been taught to serve Krishna, and with Krishna will live eternally. Our life is eternal. Nahanyate hanyamani sharire. As a temporary disappearance of this body, it doesn't matter. The body is meant for disappearance. Tata dehantara prapti. So live forever in serving Krishna. Just check this. Anyway, on May 17, I wrote Prabhupada with news of Bombay and also expressed my appreciation and gratitude to him, quoting 2 verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage in your permanent eternal servant, as your permanent eternal servant, and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? Stotra Ratna 43. In Bhagavatam 7:9-28, my dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant, Narada Muni, kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? 2 days later, Tamal Krishna wrote in his diary, Srila Prabhupada received a letter from Giriraj. He offered his loving prayers to Srila Prabhupada, especially the prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-28. When Prabhupada receives such letters from Giriraj, he appreciates them very much. He closes his eyes and drinks in every word. He has so much affection for Giriraj because of his faithful service. Giriraj never became fearful, even when his life was threatened. He never left a difficult service, but remained always cool-headed, considering only Prabhupada's desires and not his own. Yayatam mam prapadyante tangstadaiva bhajamyaham. Prabhupada called for the movement's leaders to come to Vrindavan and be with him. He asked that they chant for him. He made arrangements for his will and other documents and procedures to ensure smooth and proper running of ISKCON and the BBT and safeguard its properties after his departure. Devotees would come to his room in shifts and do kirtan and sometimes read to him. But even in such a condition, Prabhupada remained focused on Juhu and took action to ensure that the required funds were arriving. On May 18, he wrote Guru Kripa in Japan. For some reason, temples are not sending in as much money as was expected to the BBT. Rameswar says that he cannot afford to send any money for completing Bombay at this time. Therefore, I'm hoping it may be possible for you to continue to send $100,000 monthly for finishing the Bombay project. And he concluded, I was staying in Rishikesh hoping to improve my health, but instead I've become a little weaker. Now I have come back to my home Vrindavan. If anything should go wrong, at least I will be here in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is for residents. Bombay is office for organization, and Mayapur is for worship of the Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 3 days later, so that's May 21, he wrote to me in Bombay, I am very glad to learn that you are getting great spiritual encouragement and strength. Krishna will give you all power. You have persevered throughout all difficulties and have acted as commander of our army there in Bombay, and always you remained cool-headed throughout. Remain faithful, and Krishna will give you all intelligence and strength how to organize everything very nicely. I was encouraged, but I was also extremely anxious about Prabhupada's condition and wanted to join him and the other leaders. So, within a few days, I was on a train headed to Vrindavan. There, 2 days after Prabhupada wrote to me, he told the devotees, as Tamal Krishna recorded in his diary, quote, your love for me will be tested, how, after my departure, you maintain this institution. We have glamour, and people are feeling our weight. This should be maintained, not like Gaudiya Math. After Guru Maharaj's departure, so many acharyas came up. Later, Tamal Krishna told Satsarup that Prabhupada had said, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone. The same message. As Bhakti Turu Swami recalled, quote, when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan during his last days, Tamal Krishna would read him the letters that devotees wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and His Divine Grace would dictate his replies, and sometimes he would make comments. One devotee had written that he wanted to offer his longevity to Srila Prabhupada so that he could continue to be with us on this planet. It was a very sweet letter, steeped with emotion. However, Srila Prabhupada reacted in a rather unusual way and commented that our real love for him would be shown by how we cooperate with each other to continue his mission. That incident left a very deep impression in my heart, and I became aware that the best way to show my love for Srila Prabhupada is through my cooperation with the devotees of ISKCON who are serving His Divine Grace so sincerely to continue his mission, unquote. Prabhupada had made the same point in a letter in 1973. Quote, the test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be, in this mutual cooperative spirit, to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate. When I arrived in Vrindavan, Prabhupada asked me about Bombay, and I helped make the legal and other arrangements he requested. One of his concerns was that ISKCON's properties should be protected. He brought this up the morning after I arrived and I reported back to him later that day. This morning you gave the hint that there might be envious persons coming to take away our properties, I said. So in our GBC meeting here, we discussed this point. A committee of 6 of us was made to resolve this. Basically, we made a model trust deed, which can be used for all the Indian properties. There may be 3 trustees for each property, and the basic point of the trust deed is that the property rests with these trustees. and they have no right to sell or mortgage or dispose of the property in any way. That is the basic point. And then we have proposed the 3 trustees for each of the properties. Prabhupada accepted the proposal, but knowing our inexperience with such matters, especially in India, he wanted the trustees to make an advisory board of local friends, though the trustees would retain final authority. Quote, this is based on the BBT trust document that you wrote many years ago, Ramaswar said, and he read from the document what we drafted. I, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder chair of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, disciple of Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, 108, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada, and we, the members of the Bureau of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, hereby give and transfer the properties and all the property rights incidental thereto and hereafter described to the following persons as trustees in trust for purposes hereinafter stated and to be administered in accordance with the provisions hereinafter set forth. Like, takes a lawyer to write something like that. And there are 5 different trusts. The first one is from Mayapur, and the proposed trustees are Jayapataka Maharaj, Bhavananda Maharaj, and Gopal Krishna. The second one is from Bombay, and the proposed trustees are Tamal Krishna, Giriraj, and Gopal Krishna. The third one is for Vrindavan, and the proposed trustees are, as Tamal Krishna wrote in his diary, Prabhupada was very satisfied and said, Jai, future directors of ISKCON, unquote. And later he said, now I can die peacefully, and he cried. Having dealt with the properties, we met the next day to consider the bank accounts. When I entered Prabhupada's room, I could see that he was in a deep, reflective mood. When I go to Los Angeles, I am in Vaikuntha, he said. When I go to New York, I am in Vaikuntha. Wherever we have got temple, that is Vaikuntha. So why shall I have objection to remaining? Do your duty nicely and see what Krishna desires. Let it be fulfilled. But do your duty. It is your duty to pray to Krishna as affectionate children and let Krishna decide. And I have no objection either way, so what is next? Quote, in continuation of arranging for the properties and other things to be managed, I said, and Prabhupada approved suggestions for property trustees, then the bank accounts. The main fund is ISKCON Mayapur Vrindavan, fixed deposits, and savings account. So we thought that the best thing would be to have a committee to oversee the spending of this money in terms of your desire. We propose that the committee consist of Guru Kripa Maharaj, Ramaswar Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Gopal Krishna, and myself. Very good. Approved. I think you're all competent. Very good selection. Do it. Then the persons who signed the checks, they would do so according to the decision made by the, Prabhupada says, committee. Yes, that's nice. Then the signers would be in Bombay, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Gopal Krishna, and myself, 2 of the 3. And then in Los Angeles, jointly, Ramaswar Maharaj and Satsrup Maharaj. Very good. Then for the BBT, the idea would be that the principal amount should not be touched, but the interest can be given for loan, if absolutely necessary, just as you have been doing. But the idea is that the amount should always be repaid. Quote, in principle, but when there is necessity, it should be given. Even if by chance it is not paid, don't mind. Business should not suffer, that's all. Yes. If you can provide, you must, of course, see that our business is done. And then they should try to pay. If they are actually not able to pay, don't mind. It is all right? Yes, Prabhupada, Ramaswar said. The principle should be that they should return back. But if by chance they cannot, don't press. Let them go on with their business. But don't be lenient. Everyone laughed at the apparent contradiction. They should want to pay out of duty to you, Tamal Krishna said. Krishna will give them, Prabhupada said. You are increasing the book sales. That is Krishna's favor. Krishna is assuring, don't be disturbed about money matters, I'll pay you. But don't be very loose or extravagant. Every paisa should be spent very cautiously. That is wanted. So it is all right. So the signers on the account would be Tamal Krishna, Gopal Krishna, and myself. 2 out of 3, I said. Don't open many bank accounts. The same signer, 1 or 2 of them must sign the accounts may be in your books, but there is no necessity of opening so many accounts in different signers. That is not necessary. Right. So these are actually the same signers as the Mayapur Vrindavan Fund. And in some cases, there are different accounts distributed in different places that should be, Prabhupada, that you can keep in your books, not in the bank. So all the funds can be consolidated in the accounts in Bombay, yes. Then for the BBT money, the decision to give out loans should be unanimously approved by all 3 of us, Tamal Krishna, Gopal, myself, yes. Then the accounts in your personal name. We thought that those funds could be transferred to the Mayapur Vrindavan Fund, as you suggested, and just keep our own account, how it is spent in terms of your desires. Yes, you can transfer at any moment. Do it very nicely, cool-headed. Mataksmatir Gyanam Apohanam Cha. From Krishna come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. We shall always be prepared to take instruction from Krishna. That is best. Okay, that's a lot of business. That night, Prabhupada again reflected on his condition. Babhosarat Shotramanobi Ramat. Glorification of the Supreme Lord is the right medicine for the material disease. You will not find any medicine throughout the universe that will benefit you, whether you die or live. This is the only medicine, both ways. Death is inevitable. You die today or tomorrow. So by taking this medicine, if you die, you have the greatest benefit. And if you live, you enjoy. If you die, enjoy. If you live, enjoy. Go on chanting. I am prepared in either way. If you send a deki to heaven, what will it do? The same business. Whether the deki is kept here or in heaven, his business is to do that. Dug, 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 dug. He was assuring us that wherever he went, he would engage in chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. Kirtan was the best medicine because whether he lived or died, was on earth or in heaven, he would enjoy such chanting and hearing of Krishna's glories. I am very much confident of this medicine, Prabhupada explained. Nobody is prepared to die, but I am prepared to die. That much strength I have got. Generally, people do not like to die, but I will be very glad to die if Krishna wants, or to stay with you. I have no objection either way, but I am not afraid of death. That much strength I have got. Why shall I be afraid? Bhakti Sanivas, to live with devotees. Such a great opportunity. You are all pure devotees. To live with you and to die while you are chanting, such a great fortune. There's no question of being afraid of death. Of course, we have our preference, Tamal Krishna said, referring to the devotees' ardent desire that Prabhupada remain with them. I have no objection, whatever is his or Krishna's desire. "5 days later, we approached Srila Prabhupada about his last will and testament. We drafted a will, I began, including the trust for the properties of India and some of the other will, Prabhupada said. Will? There will be direction that management should be done like this. That's all. Nobody can say in court case that the temple will be in the charge of this person, this temple. We've included those points in your brief will. Should I read it? Then we can type it. I, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, settler of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and disciple of Om Vishnupad 108 Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada, presently residing at Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, make this my last will. 1. The governing body commission, GBC, will be the trustees of the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Instead of trustees, Prabhupada said, supreme managers or ultimate managers, like that. I continued. 2, each temple will be a trust property. Again, trust word. ISKCON property, Gopal Krishna suggested. Okay, we can change that wording. I accept it. And will be managed by 3 committee members. Yes, Prabhupada confirmed. The system of management will continue as it is now. There is no need of any change. 3, the property in India will be managed by the following committee members, and I read out the names. The committee members who have herein been designated are appointed for life. In the event of death or the failure to act for any reason for any of the said committee members, a successor committee member or committee members may be appointed by the remaining committee members, provided that a new committee member is an initiated disciple and following strictly all the rules and regulations of ISKCON as detailed in the books of His Divine Grace. I caught myself realizing that the will would be in Srila Prabhupada's name, and then continued. Detailed in my books, and provided that there are never less than 3 or more than 5 committee members acting at one time. 4, I've created, developed, and organized the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and as such, I hereby will that none of the immovable properties in India in the name of ISKCON shall ever be mortgaged, borrowed against. Why India? Prabhupada questioned. Everywhere. Ramaswaran Tamal Krishna discussed possible exceptions for outside India, to which Prabhupada agreed, subject to, quote, with the consent of the GBC. He said that an inventory should be made of all ISKCON properties and that trustees should be assigned to each of them. Better not to be sold, he reaffirmed. I continued, quote, shall never be mortgaged, borrowed against, or sold, transferred, or in any way encumbered, disposed of, or alienated. This is the Indian properties, Tamal Krishna clarified. The direction is irrevocable, I continued. 5, I declare, say, and confirm that all the properties, both movable and immovable, which stand in my name, including current checking accounts, saving accounts, fixed deposits, etc., and the heirs and successors of my previous family or anyone claiming through them have no right, claim, or interest in these properties whatsoever, save and except as provided hereafter. Giriraj asked, what should we do about the clause which appoints the executors, Giriraj asked. They're responsible to see the will is carried out. How many executors? Prabhupada asked. I think the lawyer suggested 2 or 3. He suggested not less than 3, he corrected. Up to 7 or 11. So I'll give you 7 names. And he agreed to give them after thinking it over. When we had finished discussing the will, Ramaswamy informed Prabhupada about developments in the distribution of his books. I just received a telegram from America about the book selling, he said. It is from our main warehouse in Los Angeles. The report that there has been increase this month over last month. For Back to Godhead, the increase has been 70%. For small books like Perfection of Yoga, it has increased 45%. For medium books like Krishna Trilogy and Ishopanishad, it has increased 45%. And for the hardbound books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, it has doubled. 200% increase. This is very good. That means tripled, I added. 100% increase is doubled. So 200%. Tripled, Tamal Krishna said. Tripled. The big book distribution. Very good, Prabhupada said. Simply by your word, Srila Prabhupada, it is happening. Everyone is now wearing these double it buttons, Ramaswamy said. The whole movement is simply thinking of doubling book distribution. Yes, that is our real mission, Prabhupada said. Yadi Deka Tari Kaha Krishna Upadesh. That's all. This is the opportunity of speaking the words given by Krishna. Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas or Krishna are the same, so that's all right. Now, no more talking. Jai, Srila Prabhupada, the devotees exclaimed. Now maybe that's a good place to stop, because the next break comes 5 pages later. I think I'll stop there. It's pretty heavy to read about Prabhupada's will and bank accounts. And I mean, they have to do the needful, but I'm sure that the mood was pretty heavy. He doesn't get into that in his writing. I'm surprised. It's details of the conversations and exchanges, but the mood amongst the devotees. It's really heavy. Okay. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.